This is my WWE Night of Champions 2013 pay-per-view review. The pay-per-view came out there a little while ago. As far as my thoughts of this show, I gotta say, if it wasn't for the last hour of this pay-per-view, the last three matches, this was leading in into the category of a very bad show from WWE. The first 2 hours of the show were pretty dreadful. It wasn't stuff that was god-awful and like the worst stuff you ever seen, but it's stuff that, you know, wasn't really pay-per-view quality. It wasn't that many matches that were worth seeing in the first 2 hours of the pay-per-view. It just felt like a lot of TV quality matches, nothing you would say is pay-per-view quality. In the last hour of the pay-per-view did pick the show up a lot, especially considering how bad the first 2 hours were. The last hour of the show, you had a great main event with Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan for the WWE title. Love the outcome of it. We'll just have to wait and see where it leads to, obviously, with the kind of screwy finish they had with the match, and I'll get my thoughts on that when I talk about the main event. And you had the Shield involved in two good matches. You had, you know, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins defending the tag titles against the Primetime Players, which was a good tag team title match. And you had Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler for the U.S. title. So the last hour of the show was good, and really the only part of the show I would say is worth checking out is that last hour, those last three matches of the show. First 2 hours weren't much of anything, but I would say those last three matches did bring the show up a lot. At least I would say should give the pay-per-view a passing grade. I'm at least say because of that last hour, the pay-per-view turned into from being a terrible show and at least to being an average, somewhat above average show considering those last three matches when you average it out. And then let me get into the pay-per-view. The pre-show match was the Tag Team Turmoil match. This was, you know, for the #1 contenders for the tag team titles. Whoever won this will get a shot later on in the evening. Tag Team Turmoil rules are 2 teams started. Then after one team is eliminated, next team comes out until the final team comes out, and whoever's the last team standing, it gets the #1 contender shot. Started off with 3MB and Tons of Funk. Tons of Funk eliminate 3MB fairly quick in here. Then out comes Swagger and Antonio Cesaro, the Real Americans. Doesn't really go that long with Tons of Funk. Then Tons of Funk get eliminated. And then the Usos come out, which were the team I was hoping that was going to win this match. Unfortunately, they didn't. But it was the best part of this Tag Team Turmoil was when you saw the Usos out there against the Real Americans. That was the memorable part of this Tag Team Turmoil, the best part of it. And the Usos end up getting eliminated after Jack Swagger locks in the Patriot lock. And then the final team coming out is the Primetime Players. So last two teams, Primetime Players and the Real Americans. The Primetime Players ends up eliminating the Real Americans, so they become the #1 contenders to get a shot later on in the evening. A decent, you know, pre-show match, especially since it's a pre-show free match. It wasn't bad. I would say about 2 1/4 stars, and definitely the best stuff in that match was the stuff with the Usos. Unfortunately, they didn't win. I didn't have too much of a problem with the Primetime Players winning, though. And then you go into the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view pretty much starts off with a segment that would be definitely Raw-worthy. This was a segment that should have been done on TV, not pay-per-view, and obviously was a segment probably done to cut some time. Triple H comes out there, you know, the WWE COO Triple H comes out there, basically welcomes the crowd to the show. Then, you know, he's talking about the main event, you know, guaranteeing that there's going to be no interference in the main event, and saying there will be no outside interference in that match. Then Paul Heyman comes out there. Paul Heyman's basically coming out there trying to weasel his way out of his elimination handicap match with CM Punk. Triple H says, no, you're not. That match is still going on. And then basically Curtis Axel talks down to Triple H. This pisses Triple H off. And then Triple H is like, well, we don't have an IC title match on this pay-per-view, and you are the IC champion, so you are going to be defending that. So Curtis Axel gets double duty, and Triple H said, you'll be taking on whomever I walk into first when I walk backstage. So person that comes out is Kofi Kingston. So Kofi Kingston gets a IC title shot. A decent opener, nothing too bad. Curtis Axel retains the title, about, you know, 2 1/4 stars. It was at least watchable. The next matchup was the 4-way match for the Divas title. This was Natalya, Brie Bella, Naomi, and the Divas champion AJ Lee This was actually a decent Divas match. I actually didn't mind it. Started off with everyone ganging up on AJ, and then when they were all ganging up on AJ, then Brie Bella takes that. Then after they get rid of AJ outside the ring, then it's Naomi and Natalya inside. Naomi and Natalya and Brie in the ring. Brie takes them down with double clothesline. Then you see some good stuff from Natalya. AJ gets in everything in here. Naomi's one of those women that looks good from time to time. She looked good in this match, even though one or two spots were a little botchy. Even with that, she got in her stuff, didn't look bad. And the end of this match comes when Natalya, she was putting Naomi and Brie and a double sharpshooter, and then AJ comes in there. AJ, breaks this up, and AJ then locks in the Black Widow submission, and Natalya taps out, and so AJ retains the Divas title. Fairly decent Divas match, about 2 1/4 stars. The next matchup was Rob Van Dam versus Alberto Del Rio for the World Heavyweight title. This match was going on real good. I actually was getting into it. Then they did the screwy finish. That was really the thing that hurt this match for me, because I was really getting into this. I was thinking it was going to be a good match. Obviously, with the ending, we'll be seeing them take on each other next month in 3 weeks at Battleground. Then this match comes when Alberto Del Rio, he locks in the cross arm breaker onto RVD. RVD gets to the ropes. He's grabbing the ropes. He's got a hold of it. The ref's trying to tell Alberto to break the hold. Alberto Del Rio refuses to break the hold, so he gets DQ'd. So RVD wins this match via disqualification. Then Alberto Del Rio ends up attacking RVD post-match. Then RVD ends up getting his vengeance on him, beats him down. Ricardo Rodriguez helps him. Then RVD hits the frog splash and obviously holds the title up, and that ends that segment. So obviously with the DQ finish right there, we'll be seeing them two take on each other in 3 weeks at Battleground. Hopefully, next month they won't have a screwy ending like that. And if they don't have a screwy ending, these two, I think, can have a really good, possibly great match, because it was going on really good. Even with the screwy finish, I would still give it, 2 3/4 stars, maybe three stars. It was at least a good match. Even with the ending, it was still a good match. The ending did hurt it a lot, though. Then the next matchup was Fandango versus The Miz. Obviously, this was built up off of, Fandango interrupting The Miz at SummerSlam, then obviously built up for about a month going into this pay-per-view. So it made sense this taking place. Does kind of hurt your marketing strategy when you do have, a match like, Fandango and Miz on the pay-per-view, and the elimination handicap match, considering those aren't title matches. So it kind of hurts your marketing strategy when you say every match is for a title. But it wasn't a bad match on here, and it made sense being on the pay-per-view. Was, a backstory to it, so it wasn't a thrown-together match, but wasn't really anything I was looking forward to. It was at least a watchable match with Fandango and The Miz. The Miz ends up winning this match after he locks in the figure 4 leg lock on Fandango, so The Miz wins this match. 2 1/4 stars. As you're seeing, a lot of these matches were pretty much watchable or watchable or average at best. Going into the first 2 hours of the show, as you're seeing so far. Then the next matchup was the elimination handicap match, no DQ stipulations. This was Curtis Axel and Paul Heyman versus CM Punk. Starts off, Paul Heyman's outside the ring. Starts off kind of more or less as a singles match. Curtis Axel and CM Punk. CM Punk and Curtis Axel are beating the hell out of each other with kendo sticks. A lot of brutal shots. CM Punk takes him down, and then Curtis Axel taps out from the Anaconda Vice. So then it ends. Paul Heyman coming in there. Then Paul Heyman, is trying to weasel his way out. He runs around the ring. CM Punk ends up catching him, getting him back into the ring. Looks like CM Punk's going to get his revenge against Paul Heyman. Starts, beating the hell out of him with the kendo stick. And then, just like Paul Heyman handcuffed CM Punk, and CM Punk handcuffed him, started hitting him with the kendo stick, beat him a few times, and then put him up against the ropes and says, "I'm going to finish this off." Looks like he's about to hit him in the head with the kendo stick. Then Ryback comes out there in the defense of Paul Heyman, helps Paul Heyman, and then picks up CM Punk, slams him into a table, into the corner, and then gets Paul Heyman, and has Paul Heyman cover CM Punk, so Paul Heyman gets the victory in this match with the help of Ryback. Obviously, the stuff with CM Punk and Paul Heyman is far from over with Ryback's involvement now, and obviously they'll still be doing stuff with Curtis Axel and CM Punk, it seems like. As far as the match, this is kind of like one of those matches that's hard to rate because it kind of served its purpose a little bit, and then obviously, you know, continues the whole thing with CM Punk and Paul Heyman. If I had to give it a rating, probably, you know, 1 3/4 stars. It wasn't bad. I mean, Paul Heyman did what he was supposed to do in his portion of the match. You know, take a beating. He did. Then, you know, Ryback came out there. You know, you knew Heyman was going to have some help to help him out there. I was expecting, you know, Curtis Axel to come back out there. I didn't expect Ryback. As far as match, you know, like I said, if I had to give it a rating, you know, 1 3/4 stars. And then it goes to the good part of the pay-per-view, pretty much the last hour of the pay-per-view. The first matchup, this is when the show starts picking up and actually turns into somewhat of an okay show. Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler for the U.S. title. These two worked very well with each other. Good back-and-forth action. Like this. Wouldn't mind seeing, you know, a feud with these two for a little while. You know, couple months, maybe, you know, do a few things, you know, trading the title back and forth. I would not mind seeing that. We don't really see that often, you know, with the mid card with the mid card feud, make it as entertaining with the title switch back and forth. So I would like to see that happen. And Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler had a good match here. Dean Ambrose ends up defeating Dolph Ziggler, retains the U.S. title at about 3 1/4 stars. Definitely a good match. But then the next matchup was the Primetime Players earlier on the evening. Obviously, they won the Tag Team Turmoil match to earn a shot here for the Tag Team titles against The Shield. This was a really entertaining Tag Team title match. When I was seeing that the Primetime Players were going to take on The Shield, I was expecting an okay match, but not as good as what it did. I'm not saying this match, you know, blew me away and thought it was the greatest match on the show. No, it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't a phenomenal, awesome match, but it was a good tag match, and I gotta say, Titus O'Neil really impressed me in this match. Really loved the stuff between Titus O'Neil and Seth Rollins in this match. That was really the spotlight of this match. Darren Young got in his stuff; he was okay, and Roman Reigns obviously did what he needed to do. But really, Titus O'Neil really impressed me in this match, and Seth Rollins and him worked very well with each other. Based on that right there, I would not mind seeing, you know, a Primetime Players versus The Shield for the tag team titles feud. I would not mind seeing that, even though I would love to see The Shield versus the Usos, because I think them two could have a potential, you know, one of the best tag team feuds in WWE that we've seen in a long time. If they would do that, unfortunately, it doesn't look like they want to do that. But this match was good. The Shield ends up winning this match. End of the match comes. You see the ref attending to Darren Young. Looks like Darren Young's, you know, beat up. Something's happening to him. The ref's making sure he's not hurt. Then behind the ref's back, Roman Reigns spears Titus O'Neil. Then Seth Rollins pins him, so the Shield retain the tag team titles here. And I would say about 3 1/4, maybe even 3.5 star tag match. It was definitely a good match, something I would recommend seeing. And then the main event of the evening was Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton for the WWE title. At the beginning of the show, Triple H claimed, you know, there's going to be no outside interference here. So the first thing that popped in my mind, I think everyone else, was if there's not going to be outside interference, and let's say, you know, they do some screwy ending that screws over Daniel Bryan, which everyone was thinking was going to happen, then they're going to do something with the ref. So when I saw the ref bump happen in this match, I was like, okay, this looks like it's going to be predictable the way it's going to end. But it did not end predictable. Definitely not in the way anyone would have ever expected this match to end. But Daniel Bryan and Orton, great back and forth action, great main event. Loved everything they did in here. And Daniel Bryan shockingly wins this match. He hits the running knee into Randy Orton, and then the ref does a fast count, so Daniel Bryan somewhat does win this in a tarnished way with the ref doing the fast count. I think everyone, when they were watching this, was like, okay, there's still a few minutes left for WWE to do something, and Triple H come out here and say, no, the match is going to get restarted. But, you know, he was celebrating. He was going outside the ring. I think not until I saw the logo at the end of the pay-per-view did I know the pay-per-view was going to end with Daniel Bryan walking out as champ. Definitely did not see that happening. I was expecting, you know, with the Triple H claiming no interference, I was expecting, you know, balled off ref screwing over Daniel Bryan and Orton retained the title. But no, they actually did do something with the ref, but they did it in the help of Daniel Bryan somewhat with the fast count at the end. So I'll take it. Daniel Bryan walked out here as the champion, had a great main event with Randy Orton, which I expected them to have a really good match. I really hope they have, a couple months where they take on each other back and forth for the title, because I think they can have great matches, as was shown on here. We'll just have to wait and see where this leads to on Monday Night Raw. Is Daniel Bryan going to get stripped of the title, or are they just going to have him, forced into a match against Randy Orton tomorrow, and then Randy Orton wins in some cheap fashion and regains the title? Or is Daniel Bryan actually going to keep this title for 3 weeks and then lose it at Battleground, the next WWE pay-per-view in October? We'll just have to wait and see. As far as my overall rating of this pay-per-view, as you can tell, I did not like the first 2 hours of the show, but the last 3 matches did help this pay-per-view a bit. So I still have to give this a somewhat slight passing grade because of those last 3 matches, especially the main event. So I'm probably giving the overall show about a 6.75 or a 7 out of 10. Not a show I would say worth going out your way to see, but it is a show that if you do check anything out, check out the last 3 matches, and especially the main event with Orton and Daniel Bryan. And that's it for my WWE Night of Champions pay-per-view review. All right, peace.